Welcome to RETOUCH NEXUS Narratives, a captivating podcast series of the Horizon RETOUCH Nexus project that delves into the interconnected world of the water energy food ecosystems nexus. In short, WEFE Nexus. As water scarcity continues to pose significant challenges globally, the purpose of this podcast is to offer a dynamic platform for dialogue, knowledge exchange, and innovative solutions, and to bring together diverse stakeholder voices and perspectives from the 6 European RETOUCH Nexus case studies. Join us as we explore regional and sectoral insights, engage with current events, and uncover emerging trends in the WEFE Nexus landscape. Tune in and be part of the conversation that shapes the future of water security and climate action.
Hi, my name is Gabriella Baldacchino, and I'm a professional officer at the Energy and Water Agency. With us today, we have Dr. Julian Mamo, Earth System Lecturer at the University of Malta. This is another part of the podcast series for the RETOUCH NEXUS project, where we will be discussing the topic of the WEFE Nexus approach. Basically, this highlights the interdependence of water, energy, food security, and ecosystems. Basically, water, soil, land, and everything that underpins that security. So if you're ready, we can start with the first question.
Yes, of course. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So what is your experience with the WEFE Nexus, and how is it integrated within your field?
So I work in the field of water resource management. Different areas of water management related to either traditional water supplies like groundwater and monitoring groundwater, but also in Malta, because we don't have much freshwater resources, natural freshwater resources. How these traditional water resources link with what we call non-conventional water resources. In Malta, we all know about desalination. Most of our water comes from desalination. So that's very much how they link. These non-conventional water resources are a very good case, or the perfect case of this WEFE Nexus, because you have energy, a good amount of energy being put into a process to produce, to supply water. So my experience is mainly related to trying to think about water for agriculture, which obviously links from the WEFE Nexus, links the water component, links the energy component, because everything we do in the water sphere, either it is to pump water from the ground. That is a big amount of energy for a farmer, for example. Or water for food. No, it's very linked. But also, when we speak about natural freshwater resources, a big part of this water is actually used for ecosystems, for our natural environment to survive. So in my work, the WEFE Nexus is something which we don't explicitly speak about specific the WEFE Nexus, but we deal with these 4 components a lot.
Perfect. So following that question, how does integrating water, energy, food, and ecosystems change the way this approach works?
The WEFE Nexus makes us reformulate the problem. Because the problem, traditionally, we used to speak about water management as looking at just the water supply problem. But the WEFE Nexus basically pushes us to think or to rethink the effect of basically meeting this objective in terms of the other 3, looking at the other 3 sectors. Because in reality, this water supply, water supply for agriculture, or water supply for us, for potable, for the municipal water network, in reality has effects. So it has benefits and has an impact on the other 3. So this WEFE Nexus basically makes us makes us in the equation of benefits, but also of impacts, these 4 different areas, which are so interlinked, which are so interlinked. So when you are evaluating, for example, if you are evaluating a source of water, whether it is, let's speak about reusing wastewater for agriculture, which is now, if you think about the declining rainfall, the amount of, we don't have much rain in Malta. Traditionally, agriculture was irrigated in the drier months from groundwater, using groundwater. Basically, we are shifting these users, shifting these people, these farmers who traditionally would use groundwater to another source. which would be reclaimed water. But this possibly has effects on the receiving environment, the marine environment. But it could have, then. So it's something like this.
And again, this is also a follow-up question on what you have just answered. Which sectors participate and what roles do they play? In your end, it's water. So what do you have to say about the sectors involved?
Ecco. So typically, when you're talking about our water sector, you have farmers. So a big part of our water is actually used by the agricultural sector, both by animal husbandry, but also by crop production. So an important sector would be the agricultural sector. Obviously, when you're looking at water supply in the local context within an island context like Malta, where you don't have enough fresh water, obviously the energy production sector is very intimately linked, because without the production of energy, electricity, our desalination plants will not work. Our wastewater reclamation plants will not work. And also, basically, our groundwater, so a lot of our water also comes from the ground. This also requires, we don't use the raddina, the idea of wind pumping water from the perched aquifers in the past. We used to see this a lot. This is something which is not so common anymore. The energy sector is clearly there. So whether it's desalination, wastewater reuse and reclamation, the supply of water, it's very energy intensive to distribute water, to pump water to everyone's house. The water has to go to a reservoir and then often come down by gravity. So energy and water are very intimately linked. If you're speaking about agriculture, we mentioned in terms of food, but ecosystems, which sectors there are many linked to the. So if you think about ecosystems, it's all of us. The reality is that ecosystems affects us all. It affects obviously NGOs and people who manage these natural environments and the local authorities who are in charge of this. But in reality, it affects farmers because ecosystems very much affects the food supply system. It really affects us all. So I see Malta as a very perfect example of demonstrating this WEFE Nexus because these links are all so pronounced in everything we do.
How do you perceive, from your point of view, the role of the key stakeholder groups involved? How are they being engaged along the process in practice? How balanced are they and equitable in their participation? You just mentioned the farmers, which is a main group.
In reality, any of these processes regarding water supply there's experience, there's time, so there are conversations, things work maybe to more or less degrees, and things are slowly improved. So in reality, all of these systems, if you look at our traditional water management systems, these are the way water is allocated, for example, how water is divided between different farmers. These are systems which have been put in place over a number of decades. Today, the key stakeholder groups provide feedback to the way the system is managed. But a big part of this now is what we speak about integrated water resource management. We speak about this process of planning our water resources. What water resources do we have, and who are the main water users? A big part of this integrated water resource management, which if you are interested in this, you can see very much in this river basin management planning. So every 6 years, there's a plan which the government comes up with, which basically has targets and basically first sets the scene, gives us an idea of where we are with our different water bodies, both groundwater, but also surface waters, our limited surface waters, but also our marine waters. These waters are all linked. But also comes up with basically first gives us an idea of the status of these waters, and then looks at what are the pressures, basically who are the different stakeholders that are impacting the quality of this water. And then basically coming up with a list of measures, a list of activities for the next 6 years of how basically what is going to be done to get these water bodies into good status. This is like the objective of this Water Framework Directive. Why am I mentioning this? As part of this river basin management plan, a big part is actually stakeholder engagement, is how do you involve different stakeholders, who are the different people who are going to be affected by these measures, or and trying to get their feedback on these measures. And
to ultimately improve.
Ultimately, what you want is that the different water users have the required quantity and quality of water.
Exactly.
Ultimately, everyone needs the water they need, ultimately. But the question is, how do you give that while taking care of our natural water resources? Because basically, if you pump too much, what remains could possibly be the quality of that could be affected for ecosystems. So basically, all of these, there are a lot of interlinkages in the system, and this plan tries to manage this process so that the quality of this water, but also how much the quantity of this water is of good status.
So, and based on your experience, what concrete results or milestones have been achieved so far?
If we speak about the water supply system in Malta, in reality, we don't really think about at home. You don't really think about a lack of water. You don't realize that water is a water scarce country. So in reality, this is quite an achievement in the sense that in a water scarce country like Malta, with the population which is very big compared to this area, the small rock, this area that we have, and generally water is available, is a success story. The question becomes, how do we make sure that there is enough of this water, of water, whether it is traditional or unconventional water resources, so to give agriculture the amount of water they need, basically making sure that they use the water efficiently, whilst maintaining, and water for industry, for example, whilst maintaining basically the health of our groundwater systems. Our groundwater is our natural water reserve, which we need to protect. We need to protect, and basically it's our only reserve. In the future, there's nothing else to go for. I mean, we're not going to start transferring water from Sicily, or basically, and desalinated water comes at a cost. So we need to make sure that the water, that this natural water that we have available, is protected and made available for example, for ecosystems. So there are a lot of areas in Malta where ecosystems are not able to survive, also increasing because of this changing climate, but because certain water has been diverted. Water has been diverted for other uses. I think if we start the idea of pushing more this WEFE Nexus would be that decisions are not only based on looking at water supply for agriculture, for municipal, etc., but looking at water supply and how this affects ecosystems, the health of our ecosystems and biodiversity, but also how this affects how much energy we use, but especially in an island like Malta, the security of our food supply.
Going on the topic of integration again, from a social point of view, how do you see the integration of the WEFE Nexus from your end?
So ultimately, somehow, which is not very easy, but somehow you need to integrate these different points of view.
Exactly.
So somehow you need to be able to listen to these different social partners who have possibly different aspirations or different needs in terms of the quantity and quality of the water, but also if you're thinking now in different areas of protection or conservation of our natural environment, or looking at sustainable food systems. So often the questions we think about in the water sector might not be as easily transferable, or the language we use might not be so transferable to these different groups of people. one thing it will push us to do is learn how to be able to communicate between these different interest groups, you can say, these different sectors. In reality, there are different sectors, and basically together, like co-create a plan to basically together try to come up with a plan which considers the needs of these different areas. So I think this would be something which we will have to learn. I think there's a lot of learning which will be involved, I think.
This brings me to my final question. How do you envision the future approach of the incorporation of the WEFE Nexus?
We have to. I think one thing which is hard to understand about this WEFE Nexus is seeing how it has worked, how this framework has worked. So looking at other case studies in similar, possibly similar contexts in terms of climate, in terms of similar climates, similar if it's an island context, the geology. So basically looking at how the WEFE Nexus has been applied in practice. This is something which is not how do you use this WEFE framework of considering these 4 different needs and mainstreaming and making it a very normal way of coming up with solutions or evaluating our options. Mm-hmm. So I think the way, at the start of this, the WEFE Nexus, we've been hearing of it for a number of years, but slowly it's becoming more something we hear of more commonly. And slowly this will also link in with our other frameworks of analyzing our water resources. Mm-hmm. So I think this is something which we the different stakeholders will have to learn. And so a big part will be capacity building in reality and seeing how different groups have been able to use this tool. Have been able to use this tool.
Okay.
So I think.
And what about policy making in this regard?
I think again, the policymaker will have to learn how to use this framework which is considering water, energy, food, and ecosystems. But a big part of it in reality is communicating. So the idea of a big problem often is the fragmentation of these different areas. Even within each of these 4 different areas, there's often fragmentation. Now, trying to bring together all of these different stakeholders is not an easy task. And then coming up with a coherent plan forward and a coherent plan in the long term. Because now, if you're looking at policy making, and today, we need to be thinking about, when we speak about a changing climate, we need to be planning for quite a few years in the future. So in a policy context, we need to be seeing how to integrate these different sectors and listen to each other in reality and come up with not individual plans as we often do, but one coherent plan which or at least a plan which considers the other 3. So this is not an easy task. But it's something which, with time, we should learn how to work on.
Perfect. That was my final question. Thank you so much, Julian, for taking the time to answer these interesting questions. Thank you so much for watching. Follow us on YouTube on RETOUCH NEXUS.
If you are interested in further episodes or news and outcomes from the RETOUCH Nexus project, check out our website, retouch-nexus.eu. Thank you for tuning in, and let's stay in retouch.